everyone, and welcome to the show. And we're your host, Cynthia
and Janessa.
So today we're going to talk about a topic that many people do not really want to discuss, or they think it's not important to them, or it's not affecting them or their family or their community or even their country. But the fact is, human trafficking affects us all because it says human trafficking. So therefore, for me, I think if you are living, breathing, if you are a human being, then human trafficking should concern you. It affects you because it means that you or I could be one of those people being trafficked. This past weekend was filled with going to various conferences surrounding the topic of human trafficking. On Thursday night, I went with my pastor. She invited me to go with her Thursday night to a private conference that was just for leaders of the church. So I thank her for allowing me to be at that. And on Saturday, we had a full 6-hour conference that was open to the public, and on Saturday they had an event for young people called Traffic Jam, but they had an hour segment that was for adults, parents, and this was put on by a local church in Wisconsin, and then another group that's working towards ending human trafficking. And really, human trafficking has been a topic on my heart since 2015 when I started university, and it was a topic that I researched within the group that I was placed in. And ever since then, I've really been trying to get the community in which I live to focus on the topic, but everybody was just kind of, how are we going to approach it sensitively? And some people just didn't want to touch it. So now I'm very thankful that there's open dialogue and churches are getting on board. My church is getting on board with that. And so I just wanted us to talk about what human trafficking is and really what is going on. Human trafficking, it is the second leading criminal activity in the world. And the number one is drug trafficking. And I truly believe that if we do not put an end to human trafficking, it's going to exceed drug trafficking. And why do you think that is? Why do you think that is, Janessa? I know we've had this conversation.
Why do I think it's going to exceed it?
Yes.
Because the drugs only affect the people who take the drugs and or sell the drugs or whatever. Human trafficking, anyone can just get pulled off the street and become a part of that. It's really, there's no, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's a good light. I've never really thought about that drug trafficking. It's mostly for
it's
those
exclusive
to those who are taking the drugs and those who are selling it. But the viewpoint that I look at it is that a human body can be used over and over again. As with drug, you take it and you have to produce more, so the drug traffickers have to constantly be producing more drugs. As with a human being, you can use that person over and over again in a day, in a year, in years to come until that person dies. So it becomes easier for the managers, those who are in charge of the trafficking, to make more money because they don't have to keep reproducing because they keep using the same human body. And then it even goes further, it seems to me, into death. That these people that are stuck in this world, if they do not get out of the trafficking world, that when they die, there are people out there that will sell their organs. So it continues after death. So we really need to put a stop to this. It's modern day slavery, really it is. And the only difference with it being slavery still is that it has it doesn't differ between gender and it doesn't, or color or race, where back when slavery, it was specific on one group of people, one race of people. Now it's anybody. It's the person next door to you. You could be living next door to a house that's trafficking human beings. You could live in a neighborhood where it's happening, so you can't say I live in a prestigious neighborhood or I work this job and the people around me work these jobs. It is not a poor person issue. It's not a poor community issue. It's a human issue, and it doesn't matter where you live. It's happening. So Janessa, I know you went to the jam. Can you tell me about what that was like for you?
Going to the traffic jam, it was a very fun experience, I think. Seeing all the different breakout sessions that they had with learning the self-defense and learning about being in healthy relationships and how to note the signs of someone who's being trafficked. It kind of reiterated some stuff that I knew previously, but to hear it again from more people, it's always good. But I think the most important thing that I got out of going to that was that there are young people at my age who actually care about it, because I go to school and there's kids who walk around school not caring about anything, and it hurts my heart. I'll read the news and my mom will tell you I will cry when I see someone who dies, and I feel like, I don't know, no one really takes note to that. So when I see something like that, it really bothers me, I guess. And to be around a group of people who is so on fire and so passionate about ending this modern day slavery, this evil, it was really like, yeah, we're not the only ones. There's people here who have this mindset.
Yes. So this was the first one of this event, and I really wanted to get the name. That's what I was looking for, so my head was down a bit. The name of the organization is Fight to End Exploitation, and that's the group that put on this traffic jam along with the church, Journey Church, that did this event, and I really want to give them a shout out to saying thank you to them. And just to give you some more stats, so 1 in 3 girls, 1 in 5 boys who are trafficked, or just men or women who were trafficked, were sexually assaulted. So 1 in 3 girls were sexually assaulted within their home. 1 in 5 boys, they are the one who are more prone to be trafficked. So that's something to look at. 90% of traffic victims, again, were abused as children. Chicago is ranked number 5 in the nation for trafficking, and Milwaukee number 3, I believe that's what the officer stated. And the shortest interview they have, Janessa, is 4 hours. So can you imagine someone coming out of this horrific life? And the shortest interview, the first initial interview, is 4 hours long, and then they have to continuously interview them because there's different over and over. So you can't imagine that some people just don't even want to go through that to tell a story for 4 hours and then to come back again and retell it. That's the shortest. For how many more hours until the entire story is out about what has happened to them. And you know, they have these sane nurses, which I really was just like, wow, this is awesome that these nurses are specifically for people with trauma and for human trafficking. And SANE, it stands for sexual assault nursing examiner, and now they call them forensic nurses. And these nurses go in and really take care of these clients. They're trained to see and know how to communicate with them, you know, more so than a regular nurse or a regular person would be able to do. So there are resources out there. If you know someone who has been trafficked, or if you yourself know that there is resources out there to really help us. And there is, you know, we go to parades all the time, we watch the Super Bowl, some of us go to circuses, and just know that those are the high points of when trafficking is occurring, when there's mass groups of people together. The person at the stand at the circus selling you the popcorn or the cotton candy, they may be a person that is being trafficked. So we really need to be on very high alert to watch body language of people, because I say to people all the time, when we think of trafficking, oftentimes we think that a person is locked up in a cell somewhere, and they're those types that people are locked away, but many of the people are walking out with us, they're in schools with us, and now what the pimps are having young girls do is going into the schools and recruiting other young girls, because you're more comfortable with your friends, you're more comfortable with a young lady. So we need to really change our concept of what we think human trafficking looks like. And of course, in human trafficking, there is a sex trade, and there is servitude, in where you're doing household work and they hold you and they don't pay you for the work that is being done, or whatever they're giving you is not sufficient, or you're working in a field, you're promised certain things, and when you come to the country, it's totally different. And even at the conference that we were at, they were explaining the difference between prostitution, trafficking, and smuggling. And as we know, smuggling, do you know what smuggling is, Janessa? Well, smuggling is if someone is in another country and they would like to come to another country. So it's that I pay you to come to America, so you smuggle me in a van or something and you take me here. I willingly wanted that, so when I get here I pay you, and that's the end of that negotiation. But sometimes the people who are being smuggled, when they get to the country, they are then held, and then they become a part of being trafficked. Now, trafficking, the difference between trafficking and prostitution, because sometimes we see prostitutes on the road and we think they willingly want to do that. No, sometimes they're forced to do that. They're held on doing that. So if a prostitute isn't on the street all by herself, making her own money, making her own time, saying I work today or I won't work tomorrow, she's not a prostitute. She is being trafficked. And we really need to know the difference. A trafficked person is me holding Janessa, and what she makes, she has to bring it to me. I deprive her of sleep, and it's just continuous. She's never going to fully pay me for whatever is it I did or I told her that I did for her. And a lot of these young girls that get involved in this, and I'm saying specifically girls, but it is boys and it is men and it is women, are runaways. And when they run away, within 48 hours, guys, within 48 hours, a trafficker is ready to pick up your child. So we need to know the signs, and we need to talk to our children and teach them the lingo of what is going on in this world. And it is just horrible to see how some of these pimps, how they brand the girls or they brand the women. They put their logo on them, property off, or they just put some of our crowns or whips, and it's on these women. And you know, they have tattoo stores now who covers those up for those women, because it's something you live with daily. And you know, I shared earlier on social media how a pastor, he said, you know, that social workers are good and doctors and nurses and all these people within their profession, but it's really important that we have God in it. Because if you've ever been through any form of abuse or any form of hurt, you develop this self-hatred against yourself, and for that self-hatred to heal, you really need God. And of course, we're always going to talk about God on the Princesses and Ladies channel. And for me, that is so profound, because the churches really need to get involved. We can't be Christians and not want to talk about sex and not want to talk about human beings being exploited. We have to really bring it in the church, because that part of the healing process will not take place without some form of faith of the girls, of the women, of the men, of the boys forgiving themselves, even though they didn't do anything. But if a person constantly tells you it's your fault, you begin to believe that. And when all these horrible things have been done to you, and you have done all these other things to people because they told you to do it, you know, it's hard for you to forgive yourself, and then to forgive the perpetrator, the person that held you to do this, and all those people that raped you, you know. So it's really a call out to the church to say, let's have this conversation about human trafficking, the sex trafficking portion of it, and the servitude where they're held to work in homes or held to work on fields. You know, bring light to it. It is here in the US. We think that it's far away, but it is here. And being Jamaican is also in Jamaica, and in Jamaica, the targeted groups are really more based on what I've read in the rural areas. They target those women and girls and children in the sex trade. And Jamaica is a port, a transport to where they transit those women and girls through Jamaica. And you know, in the US where we live in the city of Zion, and even though we may not see it as much, we have Wisconsin and we have Chicago that people pass through. So it truly affects each and every one of us. And we're gonna have some more discussions on this. And I also wanted to let you guys know that there are 3 tiers that countries are placed in terms of fighting human trafficking. And tier 1 is the highest tier, and of course the US is in that tier, is where it's meeting the minimum standards of that is needed to be compliant to fight against human trafficking. Jamaica is in tier 2. It's not meeting all the standards, but it's working towards meeting the standards. But there's tier 3 where the countries are not doing absolutely anything to meet those basic standards, and they're very basic, and we'll discuss those at another time. Anything you would like to end with, Janessa?
Just that it's a real issue and people should pay attention to it.
Yeah, really, truly pay attention to it. I just, you know, it has to concern each and every one of us. And even hearing survivors talk about the horrible things that they have to go through, how sleep deprivation is something that these pimps hold over them, and madams, because it's not just only men, it's women that take control of these women and boys and men, and they deprive them of sleep, they deprive them of food. There's women, you know, that have to be forced to sell their bodies, and they survive on pop and candy. And it is just truly horrible, some of the things that they have to go through, and they're afraid. They feel like they're committing a crime when a crime is being done against them, and they're just running away. Our young people, 12 to 14 is the age, you guys, of when children are most prone to be caught into this trafficking, this big mess of trafficking. 12 to 14. So really watch your 12 and 14-year-old. Make your home a safe place. And if you're out there and you know someone that's a child that's in this group and home may not be the safest place for them, be a source of hope for them. Be a place of safety for them so they don't feel like they have to run out into the world because home is so bad for them. They just want to escape. But as soon as they go out there in 2 days, someone is going to pick them up and going to put them in a life that is even worse than what they're running from, and it will take years to rebuild their trust and to rebuild who they are. So we're really saying to you, take human trafficking seriously. Be on alert and talk to your children. Be very open with them because someone is going to talk to them about it, and you and I need to be the first ones. Okay, so we really want to thank you today for watching our show. We would like you to like, share, and subscribe. We know today was really heavy, but it is something that we really need to talk about. Have a good day, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Well, we're a day late and the green hair really goes into that today, but have a great rest of your weekend and have a great week, and really become aware. And when you're aware and you have knowledge, you need to use that. Go out there and act. Empower others. Thank you.
Thank you.